Hi, have you ever thought about publishing videos about your travels on the interwebs? Well, I have, and I recently tried for the first time, but I wasn't too happy with the result. Let's say mistakes were made. So before I show you how to emulate these mistakes, or maybe even better how to avoid them, I'll show you my first attempt at a travel video. Here's the clip. In my mind, for some reason, every band trip only really starts abroad. So our trip, according to that rule, started in Metz. And we were greeted with wonderful rainy weather. So we headed to a lovely cafe for most of the time. But then the sun came back for a little while and we walked around, saw some nice parks, and then headed to our next destination. We found a lovely free campsite with a nice view of the mountains, but then the rain caught up with us and we switched to a tiny camping place. The next day we finally left the ghastly cloud cover behind us. Colmar. Some call it a city, some a cheesy outdoor flower exhibition along beautiful canals lined by many traditional Tudor-style buildings, which rival the flowers with their color palette. In the background, live music to underline you're in a place that does not feel quite real. It's only the other tourists that keep Colmar from feeling too good to be true. We loved it and the bees loved it too. And once you leave the center, where we found an amazing Japanese-style cafe, the crowds disperse and you can get to know the slightly less amazing but more real Colmar. After visiting Colmar, we headed back to the tiny little camping place we were staying at, which by the way was run by a slightly older French couple who are really into motorcycling, and in the evening I used my drone to capture some nice shots. We stayed in the Vosges mountains but headed to another camping place. We usually do more free camping, but hey, sometimes you want some luxury. Well, the camping place was in the middle of some nice nature, and so we took the opportunity to do a little hike up a random hill. And that random hill turned out to have quite a nice view. The next day we took the van to go even deeper into the mountains, and I found a little hike to a small waterfall and smartly decided to fly my drone in this treacherous environment. The drone survived, and here's some nice footage to prove it. Nancy seemed a little bit like a maze before presenting us with a perfect parking spot in the middle of the city where we actually spent the night. But first, obviously, we spent the day and the evening exploring the city. After a good night's sleep, we drove up a few minutes to Via Majorelle. This place is one of the first and most important examples of Art Nouveau architecture in France. I certainly had never seen furniture like this in my life before, and I was really impressed. Sadly, it was already time to leave France and head to the last destination of our little trip.
Pretending to take a picture.
Somehow, this public panoramic elevator was probably my favorite thing in Luxembourg City. I mean, have a look at these views. And it's totally free to take, so we took it down, walked around, and we took it back up again. So nice. And we took it back down again. Yeah, it was so much fun. But of course, the rest of Luxembourg City wasn't too shabby either. Quite the contrary. It's such a pleasant place, nice to walk around. The bees love it, like they love Colmar. And yeah, everyone's chill. And it's just a very, very pretty place. We vow to come back in the not too distant future. So, see you soon, Luxembourg. And of course, see you soon, public panoramic elevator. We'll miss you. And leaving Luxembourg also meant the end for our little summer getaway. 6 days, 3 countries, many cities, and also many wonderful memories. So this little sequence was about the last longish van trip my wife and I went on. And I don't know if you agree, but I'm actually sort of happy with how the footage looks like visually speaking. I was actually lugging around quite an elaborate setup. I had my full frame camera, which is filming me right now. I had an action camera, I had my phone, and I had a drone, which I acquired just before the trip. And yeah, I took a lot of videos. I probably annoyed my wife quite a bit. I was trying to take this seriously and make a nice video later, but the result was kind of random and, like I said already, a little bit uninteresting. So after the trip, I reflected and some learnings came out of it, and I wanted to share these learnings with you. We already established that if you have a decent setup, I mean, my setup was good, but none of these cameras were the newest models or the most expensive ones, and my skills are also not the best. So if you have decent gear and you know more or less what you're doing, your visuals will be good enough in my opinion. So if the visuals were fine, what did I do wrong? Well, everything else. Okay, not everything. 9 things to be precise. 9 things that if you want to make a terrible travel video too, you can copy. Number 1, don't have a theme or story planned beforehand. You might have seen this one coming. It's not enough just to travel and walk around and film interesting and beautiful things. There needs to be some kind of theme or story attached to what you're doing. So either there's a protagonist who has some kind of goal, or your video has to deliver some other kind of value. So you have to give your viewers some information that is useful and or interesting to them. And in my opinion, especially if you haven't done this before, you need quite a detailed plan for your trip already. Something I didn't have. I'll give you some examples that would have worked for our trip if I had done any planning beforehand. Example number 1. My wife and I sometimes think about moving to a different city or even a different country. So we're always talking about places that might be nice to live in. And yeah, when we travel, we look at places from that viewpoint as well. So we always imagine, how would it be to live in this city? And so we could have used this trip to do just that. We could have had a little checklist with criteria for our ideal city or place to live in. And then we could have checked the places we visited against this checklist. So this would have turned our little trip into a quest for a search for a future home. These are really important points already. I mean, it's obvious. Who wants to live in a city without a thriving squirrel population? But something's missing. Yeah, I know. Good idea. Very good idea. You're so smart. This is amazing. Dandelions. Why are they not pronounced dandelions? Anyways, they must be allowed to reach their full puffy wishing stage before being mown. A city that preemptively destroys wishes is a place without dreams. Props! You're so smart. I could have also used the trip to give you as the viewers some interesting and valuable information. So example number 2 could have been that I would have shown you real-life concrete experiences from traveling in our van Louise. Yeah, so I could have tested equipment, told you about van life in certain countries or cities. I could have interviewed other travelers, etc., etc. Example number 3 is related to this. I could have given you other travel tips, such as interesting places to go to, food, culture, maybe local slang. Yeah, just general travel information and tips. Example number 4 is that I could have created some mini documentaries about certain places with a specific cultural or historic significance. So these were some examples, but obviously you can come up with a lot more ideas, and any combination of these ideas would also work. And yeah, the important thing is that you plan this beforehand. But if you want to make a bad travel video like I did, then just film randomly. Don't make a plan. Don't listen to me. Whatever. On to tip number 2. Don't be organized during your trip. And there are 4 sub-points to this. First, don't keep your footage organized while you travel. So don't look through your videos and pictures every evening and delete the clearly bad ones. Don't back up your files. Don't store your footage in an organized file structure, for example on an external hard disk. Don't back up your footage every evening, for example to the cloud or next to the hard disk to a computer or tablet or phone that you're carrying around. Oh, maybe you have a NAS at home. That's also a good backup place. And second, don't take notes about what you did, where you did it, why you did it, with whom you did it, how you did it. The 5 W's and 1 H, I guess. You will not remember later. Maybe you don't want to. Third, only go back to your disorganized footage months later. So you definitely forgot everything that you did and where was what and what footage you took when. Fourth, don't keep the story you planned before the trip in mind at all times. You remembered point number 1, you should prepare a plan and a story, but during the trip you have to remember that story and you have to probably adapt it, go back to it regularly, and just stay on track. Number 3, don't speak to your wifey about your plans. If you have a travel partner, you shouldn't try to involve or integrate them into the planning of your videos at all. Definitely don't even tell them that you're planning to make a video, and don't ask them if they're on board. I mean, this would give them the chance to discuss ground rules and maybe mentally prepare for a trip where you're taking pictures and videos the whole time. We don't want that. Number 4, expect to fly your drone wherever you want and without planning. So I bought my first drone just before our trip, and because we live close to an airport, I didn't have the chance to try it out at all because the rules and regulations are very strict. And that means the first time I tried out my drone was on the trip I actually planned to use the drone and take some amazing footage. And that worked out well, as you can imagine. Also, we traveled through 3 different countries, and the rules and regulations and the apps that you need, they're always a little bit different, although drone regulations across Europe are kind of homogenized quite a lot. But still, at least you need to know what apps you need, and you need to know what different zones there are and where you are and what the weather is like. So yeah, that was quite a lot of work, and I wasn't prepared for it at all. Once I had done the research on the trip, I was quite disappointed because I would actually say in most areas you're not allowed to fly a drone. That also depends on the size of your drone. There are different classes, and it depends on whether your drone has a camera or not. Mine does. And I mean, if you want to take videos, then obviously you need a drone with a camera on it. So it's very restricted, and you have to know that, and you have to plan where you can actually fly. So next to researching the general rules and regulations, you always need at least 2 apps next to the app that actually controls your drone. Obviously, you need a drone map. 1, you need a drone map, and 2, you need a drone weather app. Did I say that right? The drone map app will show you in some detail what kind of zones there are, and if the zone, well, the place you're currently in allows you to fly a drone. And it usually will show you some information like restrictions in height, or what kind of zone you're in and how you might get a permit. The drone weather app is also important because it'll show you if, for example, it's too windy, also at different altitudes to fly your drone, or if you don't have enough sight. So for example, if it's very foggy, you're not allowed to fly a drone maybe because you always have to be able to see a drone to fly it. So get those apps. Also in Europe, before anything I just mentioned, you have to first register your drone. Then you have to put a license number on your drone. If your drone is heavier than 250 grams, you also need a drone driver's license on top of that. And I forgot one thing. Oh, you also need insurance, liability insurance. Most of them cover drones, but not all of them, so you should check. So yeah, flying a drone is so easy and so fun. Woo. Number 5, make sure there are no nice shots of yourself. Now, not all types of stories require a human element, but if you make videos about your own travels, chances are that you are at least one of the protagonists. And if you are one of the protagonists, then make sure that there are some nice shots with you in it. This also goes back to point number 2, to talk to your travel companion before the trip, so you can take shots of them and they can also film you on the trip. I hope that makes sense. I think it does. Point number 6. Focus neither fully on filming nor on the experience of travel itself. This will actually allow you to achieve 3 things at once. You can annoy your wifey, and you can distract yourselves from the pleasures of travel, and you can also turn your hobby of taking pictures and videos into a chore. Wonderful. Making videos, and making good videos especially, is actually quite hard and it requires a lot of time. So you have to make sure to get a good balance, and you also have to be sure that you actually want this. And you have to, and we're going back to point number 2 here, make sure that your travel companion, if you have one, is on board and that they're fine with you spending so much time on creating a video about your travels. And let me tell you honestly, I actually struggle quite a bit with trying to find the right balance between enjoying our travels and taking so many videos and pictures, and also doing both, taking videos and pictures. So I don't know, I might try to just take videos next time. Who knows? Yeah, it's a struggle and you have to find a balance. Point number 7 is fun. Talk over your videos so you cannot use the background noise. If this is relevant for you really depends on the style and type of your video, but especially for travel videos, it can often be good to include background noise because that conveys the atmosphere of the place you've been in much better and makes your video more immersive. So shut up while filming, otherwise you cannot use the sound of your video. That was rude. Sorry. There's also a bigger point to this point number 7 we're talking about, and that is that sound is really crucial for your videos. An okay looking video with great sound is totally good to watch and fine, but an amazing looking video, super great visuals and shitty sound is basically unwatchable. So yeah, you have to make sure to get your sound right. That also means that if you want your video to suck, you should not invest in an external microphone and just use the microphone that's built into your camera. So you shouldn't get a wireless microphone like this one. You should also not get a shotgun microphone, or alternatively, sorry, this was probably bad sound because microphone is too far away from my mouth. I don't know. You should also not get a lavalier mic. These you can often connect to a wireless mic. And combine them. Also can be connected directly to your camera. Yeah, don't get these if you want bad sound. These wireless microphones, they are cool because you can often have 2 of them connected to your camera. So for example, if you interview somebody, that is very useful. If you are a vlogger and you hold your camera like this, then a shotgun mic is great because this is very frictionless and has good quality if you're quite close to it. Just stick it into the camera and then you can just talk. And with this one here, you can can go away quite far. So if you want to put the camera somewhere and then walk through the environment, through the scene you're filming, then this is good. Yeah, and this can be hidden a little bit better, can go under your clothes maybe, it depends. One really big benefit of external microphones, although there are some in-camera solutions depending on the camera you have, but generally speaking, these wind muffs, they're a huge advantage because they prevent this noise here when you're outside. They don't prevent noise from airplanes, unfortunately, not yet. The technology isn't there yet. This one's a wind muff for the shotgun mic. Number 8, ignore filmmaking basics. Well, I have said before in this video that sound is actually more important than video. And I have also said that you can probably get good enough visuals if you have decent equipment and you kind of know what you're doing. And so I guess this part is about the kind of know what you're doing part. You absolutely don't need to create a visual masterpiece, but you should take some basic principles and techniques into account. You should use a variety of shots when you film a scene. So a wide establishment shot, a medium shot, and a detail shot. You don't need all of them every single time, but you should generally show the overall scene and some details within it. Just show some variety, show different angles. Yeah, make sure your videos are stabilized enough. This will depend a lot on your camera and on the settings that you use, but you can also, for example, use objects to lean against. You can use a tripod if you have one. That makes things very stable, obviously. You can use a gimbal if you want to spend more money. Yeah, just make sure that somehow you stabilize your videos. You can do it in post. Your camera has gyro data, that's cool. It really depends. If you're a beginner, and I consider myself one, then I would suggest you use more static shots rather than using a lot of panning, or if you have a gimbal, using complex gimbal movements. Just use static shots and you can add some little effects in post, like a push in. That will also help you create more interesting and more carefully crafted compositions, let's say. So yeah, I would start off with more static shots, and as you improve, maybe you can include more movement, and that will make it easier to stabilize your shot because yeah, you just have to stand somewhere. You're not walking and the camera isn't shaking around. Using the right frame rate is also important. So in most countries, all over Europe and in, I don't know, the majority of the world at least, you should use 25 frames per second, 50 frames per second, or 100. So all countries with a 50 hertz electrical system, that's where you should use those frame rates. And in the United States and many other countries, you should use 24 frames per second, 30 frames, 60 frames, 120 frames, and so on. That's because they have a 60 hertz electrical system. Using the right frame rate makes it much easier to avoid flickering in your footage. That is when the light kind of flickers. It doesn't do it in real life, but it will do it in your footage, in your video, if you're not careful with the settings. You can avoid this even if you have the wrong frame rate, but it makes it easier to just have the right one. Just don't mix 24 frames with 25 frames, for example. That again will create some problems. And generally speaking, you should use higher frame rates like 50 frames per second or 60 frames per second or even more when you're planning to slow down your footage. A little bit more advanced is setting the right shutter speed. There is a lot of wrong information about this in YouTube videos and on the internet. I don't know why exactly. Actually though, this is quite easy because no matter what your frame rate is, if you want natural motion blur, your shutter speed should be around 1/50th of a second. It doesn't matter if your frame rate is 30 frames per second, you should not change it to 1/60th of a second, the shutter speed, or if it's 24 frames or if it's 50 frames per second even. If you play it at that frame rate, the video later, then to achieve natural motion blur, you should have a shutter speed of around 1/50th. Only if you're planning to slow down your footage later and you want to keep the natural motion blur, should you adjust your shutter speed. So for example, if you want to slow down your footage 4 times, so slow it down to a quarter, then you should capture your footage with a shutter speed of 1/200. So if you divide that by 4, then you go back to a shutter speed of 1/50. If you slow down your footage footage by half, let's say you capture it in 60 frames per second or in 50 frames per second, then you should capture the footage with a shutter speed of 1/100. And then you can slow it down by half, and then you have a shutter speed visually of 1/50. And that is what we consider natural motion blur. It's a bit confusing at first, but once you get it, it's quite easy. And it only means that you have to know what you're going to do with the footage later. You can add this blur in post, but I've never tried, and I think it takes quite a long time. You need a good computer and probably need some patience, and you might need plugins or add-ons for your video editing software. So I would recommend to get it right in camera. By the way, during our trip, I didn't care about shutter speed at all. I just cared about the aperture, which kind of determines how blurry your footage is. And yeah, I didn't have an ND filter. I don't want to really care about this too much. Most people wouldn't notice, I would say, but people who know filmmaking, yeah, they definitely notice. And if you know what to look for, this motion blur, then you also notice if it's absent. Also, you might have seen that in my clip, I didn't ignore all the other filmmaking basics, but I wasn't very consistent, so I didn't have different shots and different angles and perspectives from every place, and this also made it harder later to arrange all the footage and make it kind of coherent, because I filmed more in some places and less in others, and yeah, it made things more annoying. Number 9, use as many different cameras as possible. Not only will this help you stay disorganized during your trip and after with all the different files from all the different cameras, but it will also make it much harder to edit your footage later on and to match the different footage so it looks consistent across all the different cameras. All cameras have a little bit of a different look. That could be the type of camera, like an action camera or a phone with a relatively small sensor compared to a full frame camera with a big sensor. There's a difference in the depth of field, and there's also the point on top of that different cameras from different brands, they have a different look. But the most important difference, in my opinion, is just color. So if you have different cameras from different brands, what you have to do is color correct the footage and make it match. And I don't really know how to do this, to be honest. You could use a correction LUT, and you can have this correction LUT for all your cameras, for all the different models you have, and this will bring all your cameras to the same level in terms of color. And then you could have another LUT to color grade your footage, or you could color grade it yourself. But that is actually a job. Like, there are people in Hollywood who only work on color. So it sounds easier than it is, I guess, in some ways. And like I said, I'm not good at it, but you should at least try to kind of make the colors look similar, or you don't get too many cameras, and at least you don't have to match the colors of your different cameras. Bonus tip, since this channel is also about van life, my van Luis, don't film your van if you later want to make a video about your van. The next video will be about my van Luis again, and about the learnings we had from our trip, where I tried to make this travel video. And it would have been really nice to have some nice B-roll, some sequences of videos that I could show you from Luis, our van, and how we used it during the trip, but I didn't take any videos really, so I don't have that footage. So that would have been really smart. And obviously this goes back to point number 1, that you should plan your trip ahead of time, and you should plan what kind of video you want to come out of it, and what you have filmed, and how and where and when, and so on. To sum this all up, assuming you want to make a good travel video and not a bad one, focus on the story, plan ahead, involve your travel companions, get the filmmaking basics, especially the sound right, keep it simple, yeah, have fun doing it, and don't forget to enjoy your travels while you're filming. So good luck, all the best, and till next time. Oops.